Chapter 1. Childhood and Education with Sheikh Shams al-Din. My father's name was Tarkai, and he was considered one of the small landowners of the city of Kesh, but he was respected among the people of that city. Before I was born, my father dreamed that a benevolent man, like an angel, appeared before him and gave him a sword. My father took the sword from the man and moved it in 4 directions. After waking up, at noon the next day, my father went to the mosque to perform prayers and, like other days, followed Sheikh Zaid al-Din, the imam of our neighborhood mosque, and prayed. After finishing the prayer, he went to Sheikh Zaid al-Din and told him the dream he had the night before. The sheikh asked my father, "What time of night did you have this dream?" My father said, "Near morning." Sheikh Zaid al-Din stated, "The interpretation of your dream is that God will give you a son who will conquer the world with his sword and spread the religion of Islam throughout the world. Beware of neglecting the upbringing of that boy, and after he is born, make him study, write, and teach him the Quran." The following year, I was born, and my father went to the imam of the mosque and consulted with him about my name, and the imam said, "Name your son Timur, which means iron." Explanation: One of the wonders is that a number of world conquerors have names of metals, and Attila, from the root Atzel, means iron, and Alexander in the original root means bronze, and Timur also means iron. The former Soviet leader was named Stalin, meaning steel. Translator. My father used to say that on the day I went to the imam of the mosque to consult with him about choosing a name for my child, he was reading the Quran and reciting the 67th chapter of the Quran and reached this verse: "Do you not fear that the God of the heavens will cause the earth to open up under your feet and tremble?" The word tremble in the Quran, in Arabic, is tamar, and this word is close in pronunciation to the word Timur, and for this reason, Sheikh Zaid-Din chose Timur for my name. The first thing I remember from my childhood is my mother's voice, who one day said to my father, "This child is left-handed and works with his left hand." However, it soon became clear that I was neither left-handed nor right-handed, but I worked with both hands, and later, when I went to the teacher and started studying, I used to write with both hands, and after reaching adulthood, I could wield a sword and shoot arrows with both hands. Even today, at the age of 70, I don't see any difference between left and right. When they sent me to a teacher to learn to read and write, I was so young that I couldn't apply wax to my wooden tablet. In our city, and also in other cities of Transoxiana, it was customary to give a ball of wax and a wooden tablet to the student, and they would teach him how to melt the wax and shape it into a thin sheet on the wooden tablet, and then write on the wax with a stylus. The benefit of the wax tablet was that it saved paper, and the student could remove the wax from the wooden tablet after each practice, melt it again, place it on the tablet, and write. Because I couldn't do this, my mother would prepare the tablet. My first teacher was named Mullah Ali Beg, and he had a school located in our neighborhood mosque. His school was closed every day at noon because at that time the faithful would come to the mosque to participate in congregational prayers, and we, being children, could not be quiet and would distract the faithful. Because I was very young, I couldn't go home after school was dismissed. Sometimes one of the other residents of the house would come and take me home. Then they entrusted me to one of the older students of the school, whose house was near our house, and when school was dismissed at noon, that boy would take my hand and lead me through the streets and bazaars, which at that time were always full of donkeys, horses, and camels, and take me home. After I grew up and came to power, I gave that boy a position, that he is still alive. Mullah Ali Bek, my teacher, was old and had no teeth, which is why he couldn't pronounce the letters of the alphabet and words correctly. As a result, the students and I, who were studying in his schoolhouse, learned some of the letters and words incorrectly. Mullah Ali Bek believed that the best way to educate students was with a stick, and he would imprint the letters of the alphabet and then the words in the students' minds with a stick. During the time I went to his schoolhouse, I was the only student who didn't get hit with the stick because I learned everything he said and wrote the letters and then the words without any mistakes. I was surprised why other children couldn't learn and write letters and words as easily as I could. One day, Mullah Ali Bek told my father, "Appreciate this boy because, in addition to being intelligent and having a good memory, he writes with both hands. Whoever writes with both hands will rule the world in the East and West." Writing assignments were a heavy burden for the schoolhouse students, and they wouldn't write unless they were forced to. But I enjoyed writing assignments, and even when the schoolhouse was closed and I returned home, I would still write. At the age of 7, I left Mullah Ali Bek's schoolhouse and went to another schoolhouse whose teacher was a man named Sheikh Shams. Sheikh Shams taught the Quran to the students in his schoolhouse and taught them some poems. He used to start teaching the Quran from Surah Shams, which is the 91st surah of the Quran, because his own name was Shams. Surah Shams in the Quran has 15 verses, the first verse of which is Wal Shamsi wa Zuhaha, and the last verse of the surah is Wala Yakafu Akba. I memorized all 15 verses of that surah on the first day. The sheikh summoned my father to the schoolhouse and said, "In my lifetime, I have never seen a student more talented than your son because he has memorized Surah Shams today." Then he told me to recite that surah for my father, and I recited it. My father raised both hands to the sky and said, "God, protect my child from childhood diseases such as smallpox and measles and keep Timur alive." Then he reached into his pocket and took out a small coin and gave it to Sheikh Shams, saying, "This is your gift for teaching my son the first surah of the Quran." A week after I went to the schoolhouse, Sheikh Shams school, our teacher asked the students, "What is the best way to sit?" Each of the students gave an answer, but I said, "The best way to sit is to sit on one's knees." Sheikh Shams asked, "Why?" I said, "Because during prayer, people are engaged in worshipping God while kneeling, so it becomes clear that kneeling is better than other ways of sitting." Sheikh Shams said 3 times in a loud voice, "Excellent! Excellent! Excellent!" After Sheikh Shams recommended that I memorize Surah Ash-Shams from the Quran, and realized that I had successfully passed the test, he began teaching me other surahs. To prevent me from getting tired, he taught me the short surahs of the Quran that were mostly revealed in Mecca before the Prophet of Islam's migration to Medina. Each time he recited a surah for me, I would learn it in such a way that Shamsuddin did not have to recite it for me a second time. My devotion to learning brought such joy to the teacher that one day he decided to teach me Surah Yasin, and said, "Timur, Surah Yasin is the 36th surah of the Quran, it has 83 verses, and it was revealed to our Prophet in Mecca. I will recite this surah carefully for you once, and then try to recite it yourself, and I will fix any mistakes you have." Then he began to recite the surah and said, "Yasin, by the wise Quran." Then he asked, "Do you know what Yasin means?" I said, "I know the meaning of Ya, which in Arabic is one of the words used to address someone, and when they want to call someone, they say Ya Zaid, but I do not know what Sin means here." Sheikh Shams said, "Sin means, O man, but not just any man, but a special man." I said, "I have never heard that Sin, which is one of the letters of the alphabet, means man." The teacher said, "Your theory is correct, and the letter Sin does not mean man, but this letter is the first letter of the word surah, like translator's note, which in Arabic means basil, and God loves the Prophet of Islam so much that here he is addressing him as flower and basil." At that time, my knowledge of Arabic morphology and syntax was not advanced enough for the teacher to explain each word of Surah Yasin from a morphological and syntactical perspective, but he would tell me the meaning of the verses.